Hello. Waiting to see if we've got anybody joining here with us today for another ConnectWise Tuesday. This is our first of this series that touches on Sell, which is very exciting. So I'm looking forward to answering any questions, walking through some information around Sell. So I am going to post in the, oh goodness, where is it? I'm going to post in the chat box for anybody that joins if they would like to hop into the Zoom portion of this as well. There is a slight delay. We're broadcasting through Zoom onto Facebook Live. So we've noticed there's a slight delay between the Zoom platform and the Facebook platform. I should move this down a little bit here for you guys. Okay, so let me just go ahead and get that meeting invite here. If I can just figure out, bear with me, still a little bumbly on this. Let's see. I cannot find the meeting link in here. So I think we are just going to proceed forward with oh wait, maybe I found it. Nope. And we're just going to move forward with going straight through Facebook Live. One of these days I will get it. Today is not necessarily my day. My apologies. So as we are pursuing this, let's go ahead and start taking a look at the Sell. So for those of you that are here, if you can just give me kind of a thumbs up, heart, hey, how's it going? Let me know that you're here because I can't see as much in Facebook as I can in Zoom. And I am going to begin the screen share. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and share. This one right here. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen okay at this point. I am showing Sell, and what I thought we'd go through, unless you have questions, in which by all means, please just throw them in the chat box. We are going to talk through how to use optionality inside of a Sell quote. So we're going to start off with hoping that we all know what the how to get into the basics of Sell. If you don't know how to kick off a Sell quote, again, just simply put a comment in there. I can back up. I did put together just a ConnectWise Tuesday kind of blanket template with some things in here as a means to put us all in the right place to get moving forward. So a lot of times when we're quoting, we find a need to quote options. And we want our prospects or our clients to be able to either select one or the other. We also want to be able to sometimes optionally add in a, hey, you might need this, go ahead and select this type of thing. So there's several kinds of optionality inside of ConnectWise Sell. We have item level optionality, which basically means I can pick any one of my items to be optional. The other level of optionality that we have is the tab level option. tab level we tend to use more so when we're looking at a solution. So you can have the solution for this managed service package or that managed service package. We can say that we're proposing this project for a server replacement or that project for a server replacement. Maybe we're looking at physical versus virtual, right? So a tab is really a full solution as opposed to an individual level. That's where we use item level. In addition to that, in both tab and item level optionality, we also have the ability to make our options be an either or sort of scenario. So I can leave everything open to say, pick whatever you choose. All of these items are optional. Select what you'd like. Or I can say, I want you to pick one of these options, and you have to select one. Which one are you going to pick? So we can do that both for the item as well as for the tab. So let's go ahead. Let me just pull up the Facebook page and get that open on another screen. I seem to have lost it. Here it is. So I can see if there's any comments coming through. I'm just going to keep my eyes on this as we go through. So I can come in, and for item level optionality, the first thing we need to do is we need to, and this, I'm sorry, it's not specific to item level, any level optionality. We come to our quote setup screen, we drop down our more, and we select edit publish settings. Edit publish settings is what's going to tell our system how we want it to publish to our, oh, I got logged out. I'm gonna have to log back in. That's what I have. That's what I get for being prepared. All right, give me one moment here. I apologize. All right, we are getting back in now. So we're going to come back to our quotes. We are going to select open. We are going to select our quote setup and drop down the more option. Edit publish settings tells our quote how we want it to publish in Order Porter. For those of you that don't know what Order Porter is, it's the web version of your quote. So it's where we want to drive all of our traffic to so that they can electronically sign. In our edit publish settings, we have the option to either show tab checkboxes / radio buttons or item checkboxes / radio buttons. So these are where we determine whether we're proposing something that has item level optionality on this side or tab level optionality on this side. So I'm going to select show item checkboxes / radio buttons and click save. I'll navigate back to prepare content. And then I'm going to come in here, and just so that you guys can see innately if I make no additional changes what this does to our Order Porter, I'm going to come to Publish and Deliver, select Publish, and click on Order Porter. If you're using the accordion, you'll want to drop down each of your segments, and what you'll note is that every tab in my quote that has anything on it has the ability to be checked and unchecked. So ultimately what we did is we configured the quote just out the box by checking that box in our edit publish settings to make everything optional. This obviously is not the intended purpose, but it's important that you understand if you do not make the second phase of settings locked down, this is what's going to happen, okay? So note that just by checking that box, you're not solving for your optionality. You might cause another problem in the in the mix of that. So what we want to do is to prevent that, we come back to our prepare content, and we would say, for instance, software is required. So if I drop down this arrow, note that there's an arrow right here on the software tab, and I were to drop this down, I have the option that says order porter required. So if I select order porter required here, I'm going to do this for each of my tabs where I don't want to give an option to my client or my prospect. I'm saying they're required to purchase this, and the only tab that houses options right now is going to be my hardware tab. Okay, so taking that into consideration, I'm now going to publish and deliver again. Select publish. Let me close this original one and open this back up. So now when I drop this down, hardware still has all these checkboxes here, but if I drop down software, I cannot deselect this, which means this is no longer optional. This is a hard-coded part of your quote, and the only tab you can make selections in is the hardware piece. Now I look at my hardware tab and I see that I have two different computers. I have two different monitors with different pricing, and apparently I'm giving a free keyboard. I need to put some costing in there. And all of these show as optional. Now I want to tell the system that this keyboard itself is required, but I want them to pick which computer and which monitor they would prefer to go with. So I'm going to start by showing you how you make a single item required. So I'm going to come to my quote, go back to my prepare content, and Sell has a lot of fields. Some are hidden, some are not. But one of the ones on the external keyboard, let's throw some dollars in here. Let's say it's a $25 keyboard, and it cost us $12.50. I like big margins. Okay. So in order for this to be locked down so that it does not show as optional, it is really as simple as saying that the option is locked. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to click this button. I'm going to drop down the hardware arrow. Oh, I apologize. That's not the one I want to drop down. I'm going to drop down the gray arrow right here next to the pencil. And I'm going to say update field. And you can do this by selecting a multitude of items, or you can do it just with one item. It's whatever works best for you, but this is a great way to mass update items. So I'm going to search for the field option locked. We have option locked right here. I'm going to say yes, it is locked, and I'm going to hit update. So now if I come again to publish and deliver, and I click the publish button here, and I select my order porter. Let me close out the old one. You'll note here that external keyboard no longer has the ability to be unselected. Now we are just able to choose what computer we want or what monitor we want. We still have the problem that I could say I don't want any computer or any monitor, which in the purpose of this quote is irrelevant. We don't want them to select that. We need them to select something. So now I can come back to my quote, and keep in mind when you set this up in your own quoting environment, you're not going to go back and forth the way that I am. I just want you all to understand the various steps and how they behave with order porter so that you know what settings you want to innately set up all at one time, okay? And please, if you have any questions as we go along, or it has something to do with something even other than optionality and it's Sell related, I urge you to just pop a question in the comments field for me, and I will happily address that question for you. All right, so coming back here, we're going to go prepare content. And now for our workstations and our monitors, we want to make them optional, and we want to make it so that somebody has the requirement to select one. So in Sell, that's going to be something that's called an option group. So I'm going to click the edit button to come into my product. Now, I have a lot of fields inside of my system because I've unhidden them. For you, the option group may not be available on here. Actually, mine, it doesn't look like mine is, so we can go through how to unhide that. To unhide it, we simply click this pencil, click the pencil again, and we're going to look for the word option. Here is option group, so I'm going to select option group and hit OK. When I do that, I hit save. It's going to give me this default by nature. Now, I'm living in our NFR right now, so there's a lot of testing that goes on in here. This is another configuration we have, but I can change the name of it and just say default plus option group. I generally recommend when you make changes that you do some sort of naming convention that makes it easy for you to select the configuration name based off of what you're looking for. So I'm going to hit save. And now I have this field for option group. So for option group, I'm going to say that this is group A. It doesn't matter what you put in here. You could say A, B, C, workstation, PC. You can use Dell as like if you're branded or HP, whatever that looks like for you. Don't feel as though you have to use just a single letter. I do it for ease of use. And I'm going to click the edit pencil to this next one. I'm also going to say that this is option group A. So now I'm saying that they're part of the same group. The other thing that I want to do is I want to say is optional and hit save and close. And I forgot to mark that on my other one. So I'm going to come back to my original one and say is optional, save and close. Okay, so those are tied to one group. Now we have to tie our monitors to another group. If I were to come here and put this as group A, it would put all of them in the same group, which means I want you to select one of 4. However, I want them to select one workstation and one monitor. So to do that, I'm going to create a second group, which is option group B. Hit save and close. Oh, and I forgot to mark that product optional. Click is optional, option group B, save and close. And I am going to go right back in this one and mark this one optional as well. Save and close. Okay. So now I have my 2 groups. I have my mandatory, and then I have my mandatory tabs. Okay. So I'm going to publish and deliver and show you what that looks like. Let me close out our old one. So now you'll see that the hardware tab contains optional items. This is really important because you want your prospects and you want your clients to understand that they do need to select something. So I'm going to drop this down, and now you'll see I have the option to select a computer and the option to select a monitor. If you have a recommendation that you want them to go with, or you want to have something default selected so that they have the option to either keep it or change it, we would add another component to our settings. I'm going to navigate back to our quote. I apologize, I needed to sit there. And click on prepare content. And I can say right here and right here, let's say I want these first 2. You know what? I want to go with the more expensive computer with the more expensive monitor. I'm going to drop this down. Oh, sorry, I keep doing that. I'm going to drop this down, and I'm going to say update field. Now I'm going to select is selected. By searching for is selected and I say yes, we are telling the system that this product is selected by default. So one more time, I'm going to come in and I'm going to publish and deliver. If you're not good with publishing and delivering because you're new to Sell, you will be by the time you get done practicing if you're following along. We're going to click our order porter link. I'm going to drop this down. Oh, it failed me. It did not work. So this should have been is selected. Let me go back in and see why that didn't happen. Prepare content, edit. Let's see. We're going to edit this, is selected. Okay. So I'm opening this option on my screen. And now I have is selected here. But what I am going to do is I'm going to remove the is optional from this one. Save and close. And I'm going to come back to this one, which I want selected, and remove the is optional from here. Save and close. And we're going to publish and deliver, and that should resolve that issue. Optionality can be a little bit tricky when you're trying to get it to behave 100% the way that you want it to. All right, but it looks like my computer is, here we go. Okay, here we go. So we're saying this is our recommendation. Take this i7 Windows 10 computer for $980 and this 32-inch monitor for $320, but you have the option to say, no, I'd rather have this than this, or mix them up however you want to, okay? And that's how you'll work with option groups, making things selected by default. Now, another thing that you can do, if you so want to, is to give the ability to edit quantities. Now, generally in this scenario, you wouldn't edit quantities. We would edit quantities at a different level. Maybe you have a couple of different workstations that you're not grouping together, and you know that they need 10 workstations, but they're going to want to be able to divide those up between each other. We're going to pull out the actual the grouping, and we're going to leave these just standard is optional at the item level, and I'm going to show you how we can let them edit quantities. So if I come back to my quote setup and I drop down my more option and I select edit publish settings, I have the option to say show editable item quantity. Again, if you have put your tab as order porter required as one of your settings, you are not going to run into a problem with those items allowing for the quantity to be edited. Keep in mind, though, if you have optional items that you don't want people editing the quantity on, this will not work. You will have to do that in its own sort of template. You can't have a mix. If we say that the quantity is editable and the item is not locked or the tab is not order porter required, any optional items will have that editable quantity associated to it. So I'm going to come back here and go back to my prepare content. I am next going to remove my option group. And this is where I can use, instead of going into each product and removing it from each product, I can actually select this and say update field. And I love this for the mass updates. So I'm going to say option group and make sure that it's empty and hit update. By doing that, I'm now going to come back to my publish and deliver one more time. Wait for that to load. We're going to close the old quote, open this up in order porter again, drop this down, and as you can see, my options are now removed. It is still selected, the ones that we said we want selected by default, because we're saying this is the recommendation. And then I can come in here and I can edit my quantities. So I can say that I want 2 of these. I also want 3 of these. And I want all 5 of these to be the monitors, okay? I'm going to check mark this and say 0 here. And if I come to my update options as the prospect or the client, you'll see here that my quote has now updated its totals to reflect everything from this, okay? So I'm going to come back here and prepare content. Does anybody have any questions right now that I can answer for you towards item level optionality? And I apologize with the delay. The pause may be a little bit longer because I'm waiting so that this can catch up so I can answer any questions that you have. All right, so if you guys think of any questions as we're going along, again, please don't be shy. Oh, Nathan. Hi, Nathan. Is option group not available for some setups, or is it an issue with the published settings? Nathan, can you clarify your question? I don't understand it. Option group should be available for all setups. So if you're in your Sell instance and you go to your quote setup and drop down that more option and edit published settings, it should be there for that optionality. Are you seeing that? The options group is grayed out. Are you an admin in your Sell instance, Nathan? It could be that you're not, if you're not an admin, oh yes, you are, okay. So we might need to look at your settings. Let's connect afterwards. You have my link, get on my calendar, and let's spend just a couple minutes looking briefly at your Sell settings. It could simply be that there's something in your Sell setup that you have locked down. It could be something specific to that template. So we'll take a look at that and see why that's grayed out for you, because it should absolutely be available in all settings. Good question. I'm sorry that you've got the hiccup there. All right, so I'm going to come back, and now we've done kind of that edit quantity options. We've done edit line item options. Now we're going to talk about tabs. So my tabs aren't going to make a ton of sense, because instead of building out a whole new tab, I'm just going to copy a tab. Now, this is something that you guys might find as a great way to incorporate some of those multiple solutions, especially for managed service offerings. If we stop and think about that for just a moment, if I were to build out my tab for what my base level managed services is, I can copy this tab, add to it what my better option is, copy that, and edit it for my best option. In doing so, I can actually make some really great, easy options. By coming here, if I say hardware, I can say duplicate tab as radio option. So I'm going to grab that. And as you can see, when I do that, it automatically grouped those for me, okay? So let's say that this was my good option, and I have to remove my is optional on these. And just a little caveat as I'm doing this. The way that Sell works, it is not advised that you combine tab and item level optionality. Now, if you tell me, Rose, I absolutely have to combine tab and item level optionality, I'm going to say, book some time with me. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's understand why you have to have that and build that specific template in such a way that it makes sense. The reason being, as you noted with the item level optionality, tab level optionality works the same way. We have to tell the tab that it's order porter required, or they are all going to become available to uncheck at a whole solution set. And so as we're locking down tabs, it gets really finicky on locking tabs, locking products. It can get messy really fast if we're not doing it the right way, okay? So I encourage you to just kind of keep in the mindset that if I'm offering something to a client, I'm either doing an option based off of a solution or based off of an item, and allow those to live as two separate templates, unless it's a rare instance that you and I have worked through together that has allowed that to incorporate appropriately. Otherwise, like I said, it's just on the back end. It gets so messy for you guys, and you never want to misrepresent your quote to your prospects or to your clients. For our prospects, that is really our first window into who we are and the level of detail we're going to provide to your environment comes a lot out of our quoting tool. So we want that first impression to be grand, okay? So I've removed those optional items. I'm going to say that with this, instead of, we're going to grab good, and I'm going to actually remove 2 of these options. I'll just grab those first 2, action, drop that down, delete items, yes, delete. Now for our better, I'm going to have these, and if you notice, we copied the tab exactly, so I need to do the same thing here to update. One of these days I'll get the right arrow to update the field and say is optional. And say no, update. Okay. And then I'm going to do one more and say that this is going to be my best. So I can drop this down and again, duplicate tab as radio option. And we'll see here now is all 3 of these are automatically grouped for us. So I'm going to call this best. I'm going to call this better. And I'm going to call this one good. Okay. So just status quo as I have this just as is. Well, let me throw a couple of things in here for best. What I'm using right here is our quick add. Now, this being an NFR, it's not really tied into anything Utilize oriented. Barry McKinley doesn't do any product sales, so we wouldn't have anything Utilize oriented. And we're not pulling product in from our manage. So if you, using the quick add, happen to have the manufacturer part number as it would be found in Utilize, or the product ID as it would be found in ConnectWise Manage if you're using Manage or whatever PSA that your quote tool might be integrated into, you can put that information in the manufacturer part number here, and by hitting the enter key, it will go out and it'll source that. I can come here and grab this little cloud, and as you can see, it's searching the CRM, it's searching Closel internal, so it's searching all the possible sources it could be coming from. And if it existed somewhere, it would pull it in, okay? So for this something amazing, I'm going to charge a pretty penny, arm and a leg for that. And I'll give that a quantity of 2. And we'll give it a cost of $500, okay? All right, so now if I come in here and I publish and deliver, one more time, let me close out this old one here. Grab our new one. You see here that these are optional. We didn't mark this one as optional. Oh, I don't think I opened the setting. Shame on me. Quote setup, more, edit publish settings. Oh, it is there. So why hasn't it? Oh, hold on. Sorry, guys. Prepare content. Edit tab. So it is optional. Save. Over. It's optional. Okay, those are there. Can I prepare content? Let's make sure these aren't order porter required. Order porter required. Okay, so this should have our options in it. Bear with me a moment here. Publish and deliver. Publish. Click our link. Here they are. I just don't think I scrolled down far enough. Sorry about that. Okay. So here's our solution. And if you see, it's optional, but everything is here. Okay. Here's our next solution. And here's our next solution. All right. So what you note here is that these subtotals aren't totaled out because we have not selected them as options. So if I were to come down here and I were to say that I want the good, then I can hit update options and we'll see this amount change down here to reflect that option. But if I selected better and update my options, that will subtotal here. Okay. And then best, update options, and we'll see it increase one more time. Okay, so these are by default shown as a group because of how we copied the tab. If we ordinarily wouldn't copy the tab, or we have two completely different solution sets, we can do very much like we did for our item level optionality, where we called it an item group, and we can actually turn it into what is called an order porter group. So if I come back to my optionality, prepare content, and I drop down my arrow on my tab and say edit tab, you'll see here, order porter group, because I did a copy from the tab, it automatically created its own group, okay? But let's say, for instance, I go prepare content, and I wanted to just copy this tab, but I didn't want to copy it as a radio option. I just wanted to copy it, and I wanted to have, no, don't do that. It's doing that because there's already a radio option associated to it. My apologies. Hold on. I'm going to delete this. Let's copy our software tab. Duplicate tab. Option not grouped. Okay. So I copied the software tab, which was order porter required. So you'll note that it automatically came with the settings of order porter required. So I can uncheck this. And now this one will live on its own, not grouped with these. That's why it didn't come over with the little header over the top. That header tells you that these tabs are grouped together. So if I come here and I publish and deliver and click publish and click our link here, we'll see here where these boxes are grayed out. I can uncheck this option not grouped subtotal here, and I can say I don't want it. So here's our option not grouped. Now, what I should have done, and additionally here, is I should have said this tab is optional, so it would show up the same way up here as this, okay? So then this way, my client or my prospect can actually see that there are optional items here that they can choose to pick or not pick, okay? So we're gonna come back in here, prepare content, drop this down, and say is optional. Okay, so now if I prepare content and publish and deliver and publish, and you'll note that we did that through the tab and not through the mass update settings like I was doing for the items. The reason that we do that through the tab is because now we're dealing with tab level optionality. So it works a little bit different. So when you're in tab level optionality, you're really working with the order porter groups. When you're working with item level optionality, you're working with group options so that it can group the like items together. All right, so let's come on back to our quote. We have a lot of stuff going on in this quote, and we want our client to know and understand what we're wanting from them in terms of selection of product or selection of tabs. So let's say, for instance, that we wanted to give them a bunch of options on a tab with that item level optionality. So we're going to go back a little bit. We're going to give them item level optionality, and we're going to give them the ability to update quantities effectively. So to do that, I'm going to come back into my quote setup, my more dropdown, my edit publish settings, and I'm going to show item level checkboxes and editable item quantities and hit save. I'm going to prepare content. I am going to remove some of these tabs. And this still sits here because we have the tab marked with a group. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to say edit tab, and I'm just going to delete that out. Save and close. All right, beautiful. So we just want to make sure that these are still order porter required, so we don't have any issues here. Beautiful. And I'm going to actually grab this little comment button, and this is going to allow me to create a comment. Please select from the following, indicating, it would be helpful if I could spell properly. Apparently, I don't know how to spell the word indicating. I have not won any spelling bees in my time. Please select from the following, indicating the quantity of each product and I'm going to take this, I'm going to make it a little bit larger, do 18 font. I'm going to change it a different color. I'll go with a nice blue color. I'm going to make it bold, save and close. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it up to the top and just kind of drop it in here. All right. Now what I need to do in order for this to show, if I just leave it just like this and I go publish and deliver, publish, click this button here. Oh, it showed printed on its own. Normally it doesn't show printed, so that's beautiful. I don't even need to show you what else I need to do here. But if you don't want it to print, I'll show you what to do for not printing it. So now we have it very clear to our prospect or to our client what we want them to do. We want them to come in, select their items, and add their quantities. So like, I'm really not that interested in something amazing, so I'm going to turn that one off, okay? And I am going to want 3 monitors at the 32-inch. I want 1 monitor at the 24-inch. I don't want any i5. And then I'm going to want 4 of these computers. I update my options. Let's see, it didn't, here we go, but it didn't bring in my total. So now I have to look and see why this didn't bring in my total. It should have brought in my total, so we're going to take a look at that. And it could be because we still have this tab listed as optional. So this is the downside to playing with all of the settings while we're going through, is that if our template is not set up properly for this, this is what I was talking about, representing properly to your client. We don't want your client to find themselves in that predicament. So always make sure when you're working with optionality, if you're changing a lot of things the way that I am, that you're making sure you undid everything effectively so that your quote's representing and behaving the proper way. All right, so now, here we go. So I'm going to come back here again, 0, 3, 1, 0, 4, update options. Now we have the total that came in properly, okay? So now I come back here, prepare content. If I don't want this to be presented to my client, I can also tell it that I don't want it printed. And to do that, I would just come in here. Oh, not here. Oh, prepare content. I'm going to select my box. Actually, I'm going to show you changing of a grid. So this is our grid layout, and our grid layout is internal for you as you're inputting quotes. There are two different grid layouts. There's your main grid layout, which is how you input your quotes and what you see. Then there's your output grid layout, which we can talk about on another day, which is externally what your client sees presented to them. So I'm going to edit this one, and to do so, I just click this pencil. And I am going to type in our search field, and I'm going to look for is printed. I'm going to check this box. And by default, it's going to come here. I like this to be all the way on this side. So you can rearrange your grid as well so it's in synchronization that makes sense to you, or sequence that makes sense to you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit Save Layout and Finished. All right, so now I'm going to come in. Wait, so this should not be printed by default, but it is. All right, so I'll be honest in that I don't know why this is showing as printed right now, because it's not saying that it should be printed. So typically, it's because we use this comment box. I'm sorry. This comment line is designed to be specifically for client-facing things. If I want to have comments in there that are not client-facing, I wouldn't use this box. I would say insert section header, and I can have the same verbiage in here. And if I uncheck as printed here, and then I go publish and deliver one more time, publish, open this up. And again, it's just our one. But if I did want that to come through, come back, prepare content, is printed, publish and deliver, publish. My apologies, I forget sometimes that comment is designed to be client-facing, so you can't turn that one off. And now it shows here. And the purpose of doing this, honestly, is so that if you have instructions that you want to put for your team as they're quoting, you can use that section header to put in information and instruction for your team. You can also use that header as a means to be able to separate out products. So we'll go through in a future session on how to use headers to take care of separating products, how we can subtotal them so you can have multiple solutions or options inside of a quote that subtotal out. Some people like it all to show up just kind of in one page as opposed to having that breakout like we see here of the multiple tabs, okay? So if we wanted, let's say we wanted hardware and software on one tab, we could use headers and subtotal footers and spacers to break that out nicely in one tab as opposed to two. So we'll talk a little bit about that more in our future endeavors. Are there any questions currently that I can answer for anybody? And I'm going to close these up while I wait. All right, so it does not appear as though there are any questions coming through. This is ultimately how you would use tab level and item level optionality. Again, if this is something that you're interested in understanding more on, please feel free to ping me. My email address is rose@baringmckinley.com. I'm happy to answer any quick questions that you may have about the optionality process. And if it is something, again, that you feel you must have item and tab level optionality in one quote, please have a conversation with me first. Let's understand if there's a special use case for that in your scenario, and if so, how we can build that out effectively. We'll talk through it and kind of figure out what that engagement looks like if necessary. So I appreciate those of you that joined in with us today, and thank you for bearing with us as we transition into going into Facebook Live. My next Tuesday will be a lot more smooth, but we did pretty well today. So I look forward to seeing you guys all in 2 weeks. We do have, next week is Will with a product highlight. So he will have an industry specialist on with him as a guest speaker, just kind of going over a tool that can help make your lives a little bit easier, a little bit better in the MSP space or just in the IT space as a whole. So please tune in and join him for that. Have a wonderful day. I look forward to talking with you guys again in 2 weeks.